When I think community, which I've always valued and think is so important, community, you have a shared mindset with people, right? Like if I went to a gym and I was like, I am here to be paleo and CrossFit, I wouldn't want people in my accountability group that are like, I mean, I kind of get it, or I kind of care about that. Like you want all in because you want to be around people that are advanced and are going to advance you because you have a shared mindset.
By building a strong community around themselves and then actively participating in that community, leaders give themselves the greatest opportunity to be successful and reach their potential over the long haul. I'm your host, Tim Spiker, and this is the Be Worth Following podcast, a production of the PeopleForward Network. On this show, we talk with exceptional leaders, thinkers, and researchers about what actually drives effective leadership across the globe and over time. Now, you may have noticed in that intro that I put a special emphasis on the PeopleForward Network, and there's a reason for that because you just heard from Nikki Lewallen, the founder and chief meaningful work officer of the PeopleForward Network. If you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard PeopleForward Network many times because we are a proud member of that network. This network is made up of leaders, podcasters, and influencers with a people-first mindset. That is the idea that the greatest potential of any leader or organization can only be realized by investing in the people within the organization. Yes, quote-unquote success can be achieved through other leadership methods, but a people-first mentality is what enables leaders, followers, and organizations to realize their greatest potential over the long haul. Early in Nikki's career, a leader helped her find her superpower. Today, Nikki continues to use that superpower to bring like-minded people together. Because with the power of community behind you, Nikki believes you can go farther, quicker, and help others do the same. Nikki's people-first perspective comes from the influence of a couple of great leaders in her life. So let's start by hearing about them and how they impacted Nikki.
So this was such a great homework assignment. I actually spent time this morning really digging in to find the learnings that I teach other people, because a lot of times that's what I do is, absorb something, learn it from someone and teach it, because then that's what helps make it stick. So I was looking at these people and what were the things that they taught me, let alone the journey that we had together. So Pam was my very first boss outside of college. And the thing that Pam did was she really illustrated the whole, let's help our people get on the right seat of the bus. So I started down my career path thinking I was going to be a mental health therapist, got my undergrad degree, my grad degree, get out of school, land in this job, which I had 3 practicum or internship experiences prior. She was the 4th one. The first 3, I was like, oh, I'm making a mistake. This is not like the area I need to be going into. Like it just didn't feel like a fit. So I get to working with Pam, who runs an EAP, an employee assistance program. And it was the first time that I had ever seen employers spend money to help their people have, quote, my air quotes, work-life balance. And I was like, what? I'd always grown up with parents that were corporate America, lived for the weekend, lived for the evenings. They still live with some regret around we didn't spend enough time with our kids. So that was the lifestyle I saw. And then, I'm working with Pam and she's in this entrepreneurial realm. Like it's just a very different world. It was the first time I'd ever been part of a company that was like 30 employees, 35 employees. And I hadn't been there very long. And she said, have you ever taken a disc? And I was like, what's that? And she's like, how about a Myers-Briggs? I was like, no clue what you're talking about. And she's like, okay, I think we should do some different assessments on you to really help figure out where the best place is for you here. Well, what she knew in the back of her mind was I was wired as an entrepreneur / salesperson. And that's really what she was looking for. Her coach had been saying, you need to go find someone to help you at this stage in the business. She'd been in it for like 30 years that has that type of skill set. And that's what she was seeing. But at the time I get the assessments back, it does say very loudly, salesperson, entrepreneur. And all I thought was like used car sales. I didn't know any different. So I'm like, I just got my master's degree and you're telling me that I need to be a used car salesman. And so anyway, the story evolved from there, but she was the one that helped me to really understand myself and be self-aware and use tools to see where I could provide most value. I had never seen a company's value prop being add value to employees' lives to make their work experience better. So that was one thing. The other thing that she did was, as soon as we found out that that was my sweet spot, she paid for a number of different development programs. So I went through Sandler to learn sales. I got involved in a business development course. So her two things for me were right seat on the bus, really helping me to get to this place of understanding that this is how I'm wired, and thank God, and then developing me.
And that sticks. So I ask you who, and she comes to mind. So let's talk about another person who has had an influence with you from a leadership standpoint.
So when I was 26 years old, so this is after I've connected with Pam, she really helped me understand and see a vision for where I was going. And so as I started to take some next steps into more business development, more sales, and really finding that right fit, I was so inspired by a lady that was the president of the next company that I was working at. She could speak and everyone listened. A pin could drop. This lady had public speaking skills like you have never seen. And I still remember the story that she told that day about going into a bakery and dropping a cupcake on the floor. Like, that was the story she was telling. I can still remember. This is so many years ago. And all I remember was, holy moly, she is an incredible public speaker. And I was watching who I wanted to be in front of me. Her name was Lorraine. And I'm thinking, I would rather like jump off a building than public speak. And I don't like heights. So I hired a coach. I had reached out to some people, always have been wired to network, and asked, who do you know that can help me get past my fear of public speaking and then help me develop public speaking? So it just so happened that the recent world president of Toastmasters lives in my community and like 15 minutes away. And so someone connected us. And when I was 26, 27 years old, we met and I wrote the first check. I remember getting my checkbook out and I wrote my own check to invest in my first coach. That man is still my coach, like my family today. But if I were to think of the things that not only did he help me learn how to public speak and feel comfortable doing that, but I think of three things when I think of Tommy. One is always striving for excellence, not perfection. And excellence is one of our core values at PeopleForward Network, my company nowadays, and, really illustrating what that means to strive for excellence every day versus like perfectionism. And in that taught me how to embrace failure, because we're always striving for betterment and we're striving to be our very best, but that doesn't mean we don't take risks to try new things. And that doesn't mean we don't come forward and say, when I messed up, and take ownership and really understand that failure is one of the greatest ways that we're going to move forward in life. Because if we don't try things and we don't learn from failures, we're never going to advance. So really rooted in excellence, learning to embrace failure, which I feel like that's one of the greatest builders of psychological safety on a team. And finally, Tommy taught me that feedback is the breakfast of champions. And so I learned early on with him the difference between taking things personally and really looking at the gift of the feedback when people are sharing their thoughts of whatever it may be and interacting with you. And so now I feel like today I know how to take that much better and teach other people how to do that. But I'm also very proactive. I know, Tim, Rachel Downey, who I work very closely with, and we just got on a new system where it's like, hey, every time we're on a meeting together, let's just make it a habit to jot down what could we have done better, because we both are striving for excellence and just built-in habit. So that's my short list of Tommy. I could probably write a book of what that man's taught me, but just incredible, incredible leader.
That's wonderful. When you talk about your interaction with Rachel that you mentioned there at the end, that only works when you know that the other person is for you. And you don't even need to like all of the preamble. You know that I'm trying to help. I know that you're trying to help. The relationship part is so solid there that you can see how that just speeds the learning and the feedback. It doesn't have to be couched with all kinds of flowery language and I hope I don't hurt your feelings and all that kind of stuff that so oftentimes shows up. And you guys are in speed learning mode for both of your benefits, because I think there's a relationship behind that can support that. And it's not threatening and nobody needs to be defensive and all the things that can show up when a relationship isn't at its top end. So I just hear that story and I think you guys must have a great relationship to be able to have that type of rapport with one another.
Yeah. What it makes me think of is the power of working towards the greater good versus a personal preference or ego thing or whatever that may be. When you can get to that place with the people you work with, where at the end of the day, we know that it's all an effort towards the greater good, then you can have that kind of dynamic like Rachel and I have. And I really have been trying to think like for all the close people in my life, the people on my team, the people that are my closest friends, how do we get there? Because whatever it is, we know that we're like unified to get to that better place together.
Yeah. Kim Scott talks about this sort of thing in her book, Radical Candor. And it's almost a shame that it needs a book, but it does, and it's helpful. And what's on the other side of, the radical part of Radical Candor that she talks about is not the blunt force part. It's the caring part. That's the radical part. The part is, I'm going to give you candor, but it's going to come with a whole lot of care for you, not softening the message so you don't hear it, but at a heart level, I'm for you. So I'm going to share this with you. You need to hear the truth, even though it's hard. And when that's coming from somebody who is in your corner, it's so valuable. So we're going to talk in detail about the PeopleForward Network, what it's about, why you started it, what you're hoping for as you look forward. But give us just a little history of leading up to launching this idea of a network that is focused on people-first organizations.
So taking us back, it was a nice lead-in that I talked about Pam, really understanding the unique gift that I have to be able to bring to the world. I think all of us have to figure out what that is. Because all of us have something that is our superpower or the thing that like brings us to life. And unfortunately, there's many people that don't ever find that. And when you do find that, it sets you on this path to then just keep growing and expanding and innovating. And I feel like Pam was the first step to help me understand that my realm in impacting business, which I love, like I have such a heart for business, I love it so much, is the business growth piece. And how I do that is through relationships. There's so many ways you could do it, but to me, the only way to do it is through relationships. And so the first step was seeing like this entrepreneurial sales arena, falling in love with that, and then figuring out and mastering the craft of building relationships to get that done. And when you do that, you think, just the power of community around someone when they're working to achieve a goal, or even two people, accountability partners. It's a lot more impact and a lot more fun, right? So I've always loved that. And then also in the roots of working with Pam in this EAP, I always saw my parents really pour their life into their work, but not get the fuel back from it. Like work didn't bring them alive. And so from a cause perspective, it's like, what is the cause that I want to impact in the world? We spend the majority of our life, our waking hours, working. And when work fuels us, all of the other hats that we wear are better, not only for our own experience, but for everyone else's experience. So if you have a very challenging work scenario that's depleting you, you don't raise your hand and say, yes, I'm going to help impact and be a volunteer in the community that really can propel something forward. You don't have the energy for that, let alone saying yes to make experiences with your child by being a coach for their baseball team. You don't have that energy, right? And so that's where I think work is the greatest mission field for change. So I have a strong faith and I love my church, and I feel like the church has a great opportunity to do that. I feel like the workplace is the number one way, whether it is faith, whether it is parenting, whether it is community involvement, whatever it is, we spend the most time there. It is the greatest place for us to be most impacted for our own fulfillment and to be able to impact the world.
So this is a great lead in as we start to talk about PFN in terms of PeopleForward Network and what it is and what it's all about. But there's a primary concept behind it, and it's very connected to what you were talking about. But I think what you were just mentioning is kind of a springboard into it. How did you come to believe that people-first orientation within organizations or with particular leaders was the best way, a way that you wanted to promote and wanted to influence people toward? How did you come to that realization?
Wow, that's a deep question. My question back to you is almost like, well, what's the other way? It's like the only way that I'm thinking, only because I think from my standpoint, a leader is the greatest propeller or influencer, right, to impact the goal. So I've worked in the world of like employee engagement solutions and tools, and they're amazing tools and they're game changers. But at the end of the day, it's the leader that would really even take the tool and make it an initiative that could scale and reach everyone. Like the leader is the glue that propels anything forward. And just the people in my life, when I've looked at who has influenced me the most, they're the leaders in my life. So Gosh, that's such a good question because I was like, I don't even know the alternative.
Well, one of the alternatives that would be like super hardcore command and control. You do what I say, I'm in charge. That's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of the people that I'm leading. I'm here to lift them up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And definitely not what we would build the community around in any form. And I've actually said, we're not really here to convince people, we're here to advance people. So there's a segment of the world that leads in a very different way. I live in a bubble where I'm surrounded by this. That's just the way I think. Not that we wouldn't want to get a referral to someone that wants to start a new way and help them. Absolutely. But we're not here to convince, we're here to advance.
It reminds me of Jim Collins of Good to Great and Built to Last fame. He's defending his research at one point, but kind of refusing to. And as somebody was challenging and basically saying, I don't want to lead in this way, I don't want to build the organization this way. And his response was really brilliant. I really admire him for it. I try to emulate it as much as I can. He said, look, you don't have to do it this way. You can lead your organization any way that you want to. I am reporting what the research showed us. If you want to pioneer something in a totally opposite direction and that's going to work for you and you want to try it, that's fine. You don't have to do this, but I have to tell you what the research says. And then you get the choice after that. And I kind of hear an echo of that in what you're saying. Like, look, we don't have to convince the world that this is the most effective way to lead, but we're damn sure going to help the people who want to go this direction.
Absolutely. And when I think community, which I've always valued and think is so important and why we wanted to build out a network, is community, you have a shared mindset with people, right? Like if I went to a gym and I was like, I am here to be paleo and CrossFit, I wouldn't want people in my accountability group that are like, I mean, I kind of get it, or I kind of care about that. Like you want all in because you want to be around people that are advanced and are going to advance you because you have a shared mindset. And I feel like the core of community is you have this shared set of values or perspective. So that's what we're doing at PeopleForward Network, or, leaders of all levels. Some are very advanced and have been doing it for a very long time. Others are newer at it, but we all share the mindset and belief that people first leadership is the way.
We have arrived at the time to really dig into what PFN is, how it works. But let's make sure everybody understands what is the PeopleForward Network and what is it about and why does it exist and why did you have to launch it?
Well, I'm going to start with a book that started my path towards really this whole way of being, this people first realm. And that was the book, The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. And a leader in my life gifted that to me in my 20s, knowing my story with the EAP and really having this, light bulb moment that I'm like, whoa, there's like companies out there that's what they do, is help people enjoy and find meaning in their work. So that was really my North Star for a long time, the Dream Manager. I was like, if we can help our people and those around us help the people that work on the missions of these companies achieve their personal dreams at the same time of achieving the vision and the mission and the goals of the company, man, that is how you do it, and that was my North Star for a very long time. I would say a solid 5-10 years later, I don't know, I ran across Ikigai, which is like a Japanese model for really finding your ideal life. And so Ikigai is this center of passion, mission, profession, and vocation. Okay. So it's like what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And the center of all of that is Ikigai. So I get referrals all the time because of the work I do and have for years. Hey, Nikki, my neighbor is really struggling with their job right now. Could you talk to them? Hey, Nikki, my daughter, she's like not really knowing which way to go with her career. I get those referrals more than any other referral. Ever since I learned Ikigai, that is what I'm grounded in. So my start of PeopleForward Network came from a gap from myself. Like Ikigai's been my North Star, what I teach other people. And I'm like, I'm just missing something. I am missing something. And you know what I think I was really missing was what I'm really good at, getting to do that at the highest level, because I think I was doing work that I love. I think I was doing work that the world needs and I was getting paid, but like really what I am best at I wasn't getting to do, I was like a 3 on a 10 scale. And so there was just this gap there. Right. And so I was, I mean, living a very fulfilling realm with many, I've always had many projects. I've always done a lot of different things to kind of fill the whole gap of work being such a meaningful thing for me. But I came into this year, we started People Forward Network last year, 2021. In January of 2022, January 1, I said, this is it. I'm going all in because everything is here, every single piece, and I can pour my whole life into this. And that's what we've been doing. So, People Forward Network allows me to be around the people that I want to be around all the time, which are people first leaders, and to be part of advancing workplaces and the trajectory of like employee engagement and making it more of an impact. So, just from an altruistic perspective, I get to help people do more meaningful work and leaders to lead more people every day, right? Like, so altruistically there. Now, I shared in the beginning, Pam had helped me really find my sweet spot. And I am best helping to get business results in terms of revenue. Like, I am very good at helping to bridge relationships that do deals that drive revenue for a company. So for anyone sitting here, it's like, yes, there is a business model behind this. Every business has to have a way to make money. And so what we do is we align with 3 different types of clients, and we call them partners, in order to generate revenue inside of People Forward Network, in order to give all that we give to the community. So one is a thought leader, an author, a keynote speaker, someone that is usually a small team, but they are rooted in content, training, and teaching in what they do. And we are an amplifier. So we partner together and we're like, let's get you on more stages. Let's figure out how to help you meet more of the people that love to do business and need to be mentored by you. The second is, let's think of a tool like an HR solution, a recognition platform, like a technology. Okay. And so many leaders are like, what we have right now isn't working. We need to figure out how to scale because everybody's working remote. We bring solutions, the very best tech solutions to the table through these clients to say, we pick the best to represent, and then we're doing marketing and promotion to the audience that we built in People Forward Network to share with them the ones that we found that are the very best. And at the end of the day, it's helping them meet more people. Same thing with like, let's say like a benefits company that is working on a unique total reward strategy, whether it's a tool or a service that helps people first leaders have better tools and have a vetted resource that helps them narrow down the playing field of who they should even research to bring into their company. That's the second space of who we align with. And then third, and I am just getting so excited about this for a number of reasons, but we've been working on projects with companies that know that their greatest way to grow is to share the heart and the cause behind the company, the inner workings. And so, as we all know, storytelling is so powerful on every front of business. If you're a good storyteller, you are on the right track. We tell the stories of the inner workings of these organizations to help them elevate what they're doing in business, attract more talent, more people want to work there. They hear these stories. More people would want to like spend their dollars there. And the example I will give you is Starbucks. We worked on a project with them on the Gut Plus Science podcast, my show. And they said the main message we need to get out is we are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee. And that is so important to them. And that is their core as to how they attract new talent. They call all of their team members partners, and it is core based on the people there, not the coffee. And when you think coffee, you think Starbucks, but that is their main mission. And so that's the third way that we walk alongside clients, is to tell those stories very loudly and help them grow through their own amazing culture.
So you're a year and a little bit in officially, and as you look at the different clients that you have in these 3 different categories, what are some of the things that you are looking forward at the next year, 2 or 3, that you're really hoping to see happen with PFN?
So the first thing that comes to mind is a key outcome for the community, not on the partner side, but the community are all of the people that listen to the podcasts we produce or watch the YouTube shows we create or download the resources or gain access to a limited version of the tool that we give as gifts, whatever, all of those things. We have about 300,000 followers in the community side. And all of those community people are leaders that are on a people first journey, and they get all of this stuff for free. Thank you to all of the partners that I just shared with you. Where I see the vision for the future is being a relationship platform for those people in the community. We know that isolation is a huge problem today, especially for leaders. That's always been a problem, but now it's just accelerated. And I feel very strongly that the way to counteract that is to be with people, like be in relationship and building relationships and have accountability. And so People Forward Network is going to be doing a lot more things and investing in some technologies that allow us to better build relationships among the large growing base of the community members and just get better at producing and partnering with great content experts. I feel like we're on a great trajectory there.
Do you have numeric goals that you're hoping for PFN as you look out into the future? Or is that more of an organic outcome that you don't spend so much time focusing on?
Our big, hairy, audacious goal that we've been working on for a while as far as growing the community is 1 million followers. So the way we see followers is the total number of people that are listening to our shows, watching our shows, downloading resources, coming to events on our email list. We consider that the community because they're consuming in the way that they choose, right? So that comprises the number. And right now we're almost a third of the way there. So it'll be a big milestone when we hit 1 million. It's been a good first year, and it's the power of the network effect. So when you have people that have a shared mission working together collectively, that's how numbers really ramp. And so what we've seen, we have a lot of podcast hosts that are so passionate about impacting meaningful work. That's what we do at People Forward Network, but in different niches, in different ways. But we all work to accelerate together underneath one umbrella.
All right, so let's play a little game here. Let's say you're sitting at a restaurant there in Indianapolis and you're waiting for a table. Let's say you're having a drink at the bar and you hear some people talking next to you and you actually hear them mention the People Forward Network. And we're a few years down the road. What are the kinds of things that you hope that they would be saying in that conversation that you just happen to be sitting nearby?
2 things very clearly come to mind. 2 people are talking and one person says, I just attended that first People Forward Network event that you had introduced me to. Thank you so much. The energy in that thing was crazy. And I will tell you, I met some of the best people that I've ever met. I've got like 4 or 5 meetings set up that I'm so excited about. They're my people. Like, I feel like I found my people. That's one side. The other side is the person that had invited, the first person says, I'm so glad that you enjoyed that. I love introducing people to People Forward Network. We started with them a few years back and they've become our number 1 partner to grow our business. Like, we don't want to go without them. We don't have a vision of that because we're so integrated as partners. And it makes me feel so good to know that, like, as a shared partner of these events, you felt that way. But just to reiterate that, like, our greatest business wins come from that partnership.
I mean, that's really clear. Both of those statements are really clear. And just for anybody who's keeping track, Nikki did not know I was going to ask that question. In fact, I didn't know I was going to ask that question. But what's awesome is how clear that is for you. And when that's clear for you and you can articulate it, then everybody listening is like, okay, that's the type of organization that PFN is striving towards, and ever more becoming with that energy. Thank you for introducing me to it. I made some great connections. These are my people, and we wouldn't move forward as a company without PFN. There's a really clear vision that you have.
Yeah, got me all fired up. I didn't know you were going to ask that, but I'm getting even more clear. And I'm like, let's go. We got work to do.
That's right. Well, as folks have been listening here today to this idea of a network of people who are focused on people first leadership and people first companies, if they want to figure out how do I get a hold of Nikki or how do I investigate more about PFN, where would you coach them to go?
I would say that the best place online to just be able to go to one place that gives you all the updates is our LinkedIn. So People Forward Network, follow us on LinkedIn, and Chelsea on our team crushes it with keeping everything updated on there, which is great. Or you can email me directly. Would love to set up a time with you and we could just have a conversation. Nikki, Nikki at peopleforwardnetwork.com.
Well, thank you. Obviously, we are part of the People Forward Network, but I'm proud to say I didn't know this until 3 weeks ago, but I didn't realize that we were one of the first signups with People Forward Network from a podcasting standpoint. I didn't know that. I knew we were near the beginning, but I didn't know that we were first.
So Be Worth Following was the very first show that we created from an idea. So some other shows were in the route of joining the network, but it was like, okay, Tim, I don't think I'm going to tell you. You're the guinea pig. We're going to create this show from scratch for the very first time. But, we have great people on our team that have done this for a long time. But as PeopleForward Network, you were the first to say, yep, let's start it from the idea and make it happen. So I'm only hoping that my second example, when you said those people standing behind you when you're sitting at the bar, is what you're saying here, in the next year.
So there are a couple of things that I want to point out regarding my conversation with Nikki Lewallen. First of all, did you hear her passion? Did you hear the passion for her work? She is passionate about business development. And what I love about her perspective on all of it is that in terms of sales, if you want to just boil it down to that, what she wants to do, what she's passionate about doing is connecting people that need to be together, connecting people that will be in mutually beneficial relationships. She's not the business development person who's trying to convince somebody to buy something. She is essentially a matchmaker in the business space. And having personally worked for Nikki, I can attest to the fact that she has a clarity and a focus and a passion for that. And that is very big in terms of making her a more effective leader. The leader who is passionate about what he or she is doing, they're more grounded. They can take a punch better, so to speak, when things are difficult. And Nikki's passion certainly gives her the ability to weather the storm and hang in there with regard to what she is leading and what she's doing with PFN. The other thing that I want to point out is the word that Nikki mentioned many times, and that is the word community. The idea that we need to be connected to other people in order to reach our maximum potential is something that I think we see time and again. You know the old saying, it's lonely at the top, and there's a great deal of truth to that. And we have to be very careful as leaders not to sit in isolated silos. It's really important that we have people around us who will both encourage us and call us out. And so that community aspect, no matter at what level you sit atop an organization, it is very important if we want to reach our potential that we be a part of a community that can challenge us and cheer us on. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. Who is your community? Who are the people that you are in regular contact with that are coaching, challenging, and cheering you on as a leader? This is Tim Spiker reminding you to be worth following and to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you've heard something valuable today, please share our podcast with your colleagues and friends. And if you're up for it, leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening.